Republican members of Congress are standing by the president even as more damning evidence continues to implicate him in the Ukraine scheme. But one group of Republicans for the Rule of Law, launched a new ad campaign urging the Senate to call witnesses in their trial. Take a look.
Republicans in Congress during the House impeachment inquiry were critical of witnesses without first-hand information.
No first-hand knowledge.
On second-hand opinion.
Somebody told somebody else.
It was not on first-hand information, not even second-hand, not even third-hand. He was on fourth-hand information.
Now, John Bolton, a witness with first-hand information, has agreed to testify in the Senate trial. Senate Republicans, Americans deserve the truth. Let Bolton testify.
Joining me now is Bill Kristol. He's the director of Defending Democracy Together and Republicans for the Rule of Law. Bill, you're dropping $1 million on these ads on Fox News, the president's go-to network. Is your audience the Fox News viewer? Is it the senators that you're targeting, or are you trying to get under the president's skin, or some combination of all three?
Yes, some combination of all three, but I do feel like the senators, I mean, some of these Republican senators might still have some pride in their office, some belief in the oath they just took individually to do impartial justice. And obviously impartial justice doesn't mean that they're sequestered like jurors in a civil or criminal trial. They have opinions, they have judgments, but they are supposed to take a look at the evidence. And here you have a clear case where there's more evidence available, and they should, one would think, be open-minded about it. I think Hamilton says somewhere in the Federalist Papers that you may not be able to count on the virtue of the senators, but you should be able to count on their pride, that they don't want to simply look like lackeys of, in effect, the president in this case. But what's been so striking about the Republican Party in general, Garrett, is just the utter absence of any pride. Then maybe they should stand for something more than the most kind of pathetic accommodation to and really pandering to the president and his most fervent supporters.
Ambition being made to counteract ambition only works when there is ambition on both sides. Your group criticizes the party's response to past witnesses, but in the ad we just played, you're really just focusing on John Bolton. Why Bolton? Just because he said he's more willing to testify, or do we think he knows more useful information than a Pompeo or a Mulvaney or one of these other possible witnesses?
He said he would testify, and he was National Security Advisor to the president. And we know from second-party testimony that Bolton called the thing a drug deal and advised twice advised deputies of his to go to the White House counsel's office and report what they had seen. I mean, I worked in the White House. It was a few years ago, but it's worth stressing how extraordinary that is. You're in the White House. You're doing a million policy things. There are things you don't agree with. There are things that are a little shaky, sort of. You advising one of your deputies to go to the White House counsel's office to report what you've just seen when you're reporting something that the president is personally behind is really astonishing. So I think Bolton is key. But look, it's up to the House managers. I mean, this is a trial. The House managers should be able to call within reason whom they think is right. The president's lawyers should be able to call whom they think is useful for their case. The senators are supposed to be sitting there as judges along with the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice might rule that certain witnesses aren't relevant and so forth. That could be overruled by the Senate. And let the trial be a trial. I mean, that's what's most offensive to me about this, incidentally. Right. And this notion that Mitch McConnell is telling Republican senators what to do. They individually signed that oath. They didn't sign an oath to follow Mitch McConnell when they're sitting as a court of impeachment. And they should have the nerve to say, look, in this case, I think we do need to hear this witness. In some other cases, maybe not. But the idea that McConnell is whipping them and telling them what to think, they have no pride as senators.
Bill, I want to ask you something else. You've considered yourself a never-Trumper for as long as that's been a thing. The president considers everyone who disagrees with him a never-Trumper. But yesterday, you added that to your Twitter profile. Now, I'm not particularly interested in the Twitter part of this, but why now? It feels to me that the never-Trump movement is dead or dying. You've got the president's primary opponents not unable to get on ballots. Everything you just mentioned about the cowing of the Senate. Is the never-Trump movement still a thing?
Well, that's why I wanted to add it, though, because it seems to me a couple of candidates who tried to run against President Trump in the Republican primary shut down the primaries. No real support. Donors intimidated. No elected officials. They privately have all their concerns, but they're on board for re-election. And now we've seen what happened in the House, and now most likely in the Senate. Though we'll see what happens with some of the Republican senators. But certainly the huge majority are just going along. So I think it's worth saying, no, nothing has changed. He's as bad as we expected. He's worse, really. I've got to say, he's distorting the separation of powers and creating a kind of imperial executive and flouting the rule of law in ways that actually are beyond what I expected. And so it's important, I think, to say that.
All right. Never Trump Republican, Bill Kristol, thank you very much. And we'll be back right after this.